On February 10th, 2025, a man who appeared to believe that he was engaged to OnlyFans model Sophie Rain drove to her Broward County, Florida home from out of state and broke into the residence by shattering a glass door to her bedroom. 21-year-old Connor James Litka was arrested following a SWAT standoff at the home and is facing charges of possessing a false ID, resisting arrest, and burglary of an unoccupied dwelling. According to an arrest report, sheriff's deputies were called to the scene after one of the home's residents reported seeing a shirtless stranger inside the house. When confronted by the person who ended up calling the police, Litka reportedly claimed that he had just purchased the residence, which Rain was living in with several other models at the time. Surveillance footage appeared to show Litka gaining access to the backyard by jumping over a fence and throwing a rock at Rain's window. The arrest report states that Litka initially refused to identify himself to law enforcement. He then claimed that his name was Connor Rain, and when an officer asked him if it was his real name, he said yes. One of Rain's housemates, influencer and model Aisha Sophie, told TMZ that the women who lived at the house felt so violated by the intrusion that they packed up and moved. She said she was worried that Litka would continue to stalk Rain. During Litka's first court appearance, he told the judge he would represent himself, seemingly unaware that he has a right to a public defender. He also claimed that he's a student at Arizona State University, but the prosecution said that they don't believe this is true. Litka pleaded not guilty to all charges and was released after posting a $5,000 bond. Records show that his bond was revoked in March due to an arrest for loitering and prowling, which violated his pre-trial release conditions. According to an arrest report, Litka returned to the residence he had previously broken into, which he had been warned to stay away from. He was still there when the arresting deputy arrived, and he repeatedly insisted that he owned the property, despite being instructed several times that he did not. Litka remains in custody at the Broward County Jail without bond, and also has an active criminal case in Kentucky, most likely stemming from his 2024 arrest for trying to buy a Porsche with a fraudulent check for $78 million. Number 17. Caitlin Clark. Rising WNBA star Caitlin Clark experienced one of the downsides to fame when she fell victim to an obsessed stalker. Identified by the authorities as 55-year-old Michael Lewis, the suspect began sending Clark harassing and threatening messages on social media in December 2024. In one message, he wrote that he had been driving around Clark's house 3 times per day. In another, he wrote that he was buying basketball game tickets and would be sitting right behind the bench. Lewis sent Clark a total of 15 messages over a month-long period. He also tagged Clark in a series of explicit social media posts, causing her to feel increasingly fearful and intimidated. In January of 2025, investigators traced the posts to a hotel in Indianapolis and paid a visit to Lewis's room. According to police, Lewis claimed he was vacationing in the city. He initially denied being responsible for the threatening social media posts targeting Clark, then said that he was in an imaginary relationship with the athlete, but Lewis had crossed state lines to be near Clark, indicating the possibility that his affinity for the athlete was not merely a harmless fantasy. He was arrested on a felony stalking charge and is being held at the Marion County Jail as he awaits a pre-trial hearing. If convicted as charged, he could face up to 6 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Number 16. Pro Athlete Burglaries. Over a several-month period started in October 2024, a theft group consisting of 7 Chilean nationals targeted the homes of wealthy professional football and basketball players throughout the United States, where they stole millions of dollars worth of valuables. The first 2 robberies occurred at the homes of Kansas City Chiefs athletes Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. During a home game, when the thieves knew the victims wouldn't be home, they stole jewelry, watches, cash, and other luxury merchandise before proceeding on to Florida, where they robbed a Tampa Bay Buccaneer player's home later that month. The suspects made off with more valuable goods, including designer watches, a luxury suitcase, and a gun. In early November, they robbed Milwaukee Bucks player Bobby Portis's home during a game, stealing a safe containing jewelry and cash, along with designer luggage and bags. The goods taken during that particular heist alone were worth an estimated $1.5 million. Afterward, the burglars snapped photos of themselves posing with the ill-gotten goods. During the month of December, the thieves robbed the Ohio home of a Cincinnati Bengals player and the Tennessee home of a Memphis Grizzlies player. In early 2025, federal authorities arrested the suspects following an organized crime Drug Enforcement Task Force investigation. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the program aims to identify disrupt, and dismantle the most serious transnational criminal organizations. Ranging in age from 20 to 38 years old, the defendants are listed in a criminal complaint as Pablo Zuniga Cartes, Ignacio Zuniga Cartes, Bastian Jimenez Forot, Jordan Quiroga Sanchez, Bastian Oriano Morales, Alexander Huiguil Chavez, and Sergio Ortego Caballo. They're each facing one count of conspiracy to commit interstate transportation of stolen property and could face up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Number 15. Uma Thurman. In 2005, a 37-year-old drifter named Jack Jordan became convinced that he and actress Uma Thurman were destined to fall in love and spend the rest of their lives together, even though they had never met. He saw parallels between Thurman's movie characters and his own life, and took it as a sign that the universe had forged connections which only existed in his mind, propelling him to pursue the actress even though she did not respond favorably to his stalking. For years, Jordan sent letters and emails to Thurman and her family members. When he did not get the responses he had hoped for, he convinced himself that Thurman was playing a cat-and-mouse game with him. He also believed that her security and hired help were purposely keeping them apart, failing to even consider that Thurman wasn't responding to his correspondence because she was alarmed by it and wanted to be left alone. Jordan's unwelcome contact eventually escalated into physical stalking, including showing up in places where he hoped to run into Thurman and dropping off gifts with her entourage. He even parked outside her Manhattan townhouse and rang the doorbell at all hours of the night, hoping she'd come out and talk to him. In 2008, Jordan was found guilty of aggravated harassment. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation and ordered to undergo mental health treatment, but he was arrested several more times for refusing to leave Thurman alone. In 2010, he violated a restraining order by calling Thurman's office and cell phone, and news outlets reported a similar arrest in 2012. Jordan has managed to avoid reappearing in headlines since then, indicating that perhaps he has finally left Thurman alone. Number 14. Benny Nisanov. 33-year-old celebrity jeweler Benny Nisanov was with a client at his Manhattan shop during the early morning hours of December 7th, 2023, when a pair of armed intruders broke into the business while brandishing guns and threatening to shoot. The thieves stole a single chain valued at $1 million and fled the scene in a getaway car, with a past client roster including the likes of Nicki Minaj, Usher, Mary J. Blige, and other A-list celebrities. Nisanov is famous in his own right. He was too upset about the incident to speak with the media in the robbery's initial aftermath, but a New York Post reporter spoke with a friend and fellow jeweler named Leo, who speculated that Nisanov may have been set up due to the odd request to open his shop at 1:30 a.m. for a customer. Leo also theorized that Nisanov's flashy Instagram posts may have made him a target when news of the armed intrusion broke. Police had not named a suspect. Updates on the case have not been forthcoming, indicating that the burglars likely remain at large. Number 13. Monica Seles. During a championship match against fellow athlete Magdalena Mileva in Hamburg, Germany, in April of 1993, Serbian-American tennis player Monica Seles was stabbed by a complete stranger. The attacker, Gunter Pasch, ran from the audience to the court between games and plunged a bone-in knife between Seles' shoulder blades without warning. Seles was taken to a nearby hospital where she received treatment for the half-inch deep wound. And while her physical injury healed within weeks, she was so traumatized by the incident that she stopped competing for 2 years. Initial speculation suggested that Pasch had targeted Seles due to her Yugoslavian heritage. She had received death threats in the past, and the Yugoslav wars were ongoing at the time, but investigators determined that this was not the case, and that Pasch likely suffered from mental health issues. Authorities concluded that he had stabbed Seles to prevent her from competing, thereby making it easier for Steffi Graf to resume her previously held status as world champion. Pasch was sentenced to 2 years of probation and ordered to undergo mental health treatment. His actions prompted tennis officials to implement heightened safety measures at events, including installing players' chairs to face the crowd rather than away from it. But Seles did not think enough was done to make the environment safer. She also vowed to never again compete in Germany, where she believed the legal system had let her down and allowed her attacker to essentially get away with his actions scot-free. Number 12. Ava Max. just days after pop crooner Bebe Rexha was hit in the face with a fan's cell phone while performing on stage. In June of 2023, singer-songwriter Ava Max was smacked in the face by an audience member during a concert in Las Vegas. Footage of the disturbing attack showed a man storming onto the stage and striking Max in the forehead while a security guard rushed after him and dragged him away. Max was momentarily taken aback by the assault, but she finished her dance routine before leaving the stage. She later revealed that the man had hit her so hard he had scratched her eye. In a tweet, she thanked her fans for being such a great audience and reassured them that the disruptive concert goer was permanently banned from attending her shows. The attack occurred amid a noticeable uptick in incidents of musicians being attacked by fans. In the year leading up to the assault, several other famous performers had been targeted by disrespectful spectators. While there was no clear-cut reason for the disturbing trend, entertainment lawyer Frank Salzano speculated during a Newsweek interview that the 24/7 connectivity and close access that modern fans feel towards celebrities may play a role in what he described as the false belief that they have a right to act out as they see fit. Number 11. Christina Grimmie. American singer Christina Grimmie gained popularity after she began posting her music videos on YouTube in 2010. She achieved another career milestone in 2014 when she placed third on the nationwide talent series, The Voice. But her profession and her life were unexpectedly cut short just 2 years later when she was fatally shot by a crazed stalker during a concert in Orlando. 22-year-old Grimmie had no connections to the gunman. 27-year-old Kevin James Loibel, who worked at an electronics store part-time and had no history of mental illness. At first glance, Loibel seemed rather normal, even though he lived like a hermit and had a history of odd behavior, including lining his bedroom windows with tinfoil and hanging heavy curtains to block natural light from entering his house. But his seemingly harmless eccentricities eventually gave way to more dangerous delusions, and in the months leading up to the shooting, Loibel became obsessed with Grimmie. He convinced himself that he had a realistic chance at dating the singer, even though they had never met, and devoted the majority of his waking life to his abnormal fixation. On the day of Grimmie's murder, Loibel drove 2 hours from St. Petersburg to attend the concert. As soon as the gunfire rang out, Grimmie's brother, Marcus, tackled Loibel, who accidentally shot himself during the ensuing struggle. Loibel died from his injuries, and while Grimmie's life was tragically taken, police praised Marcus for his quick-thinking actions, which they believe prevented Loibel from killing more victims. Investigators concluded that the shooting was premeditated, but were never able to establish a definitive motive for the crime. Number 10. Bjork.
Yesterday, I purchased this camera, and I will begin a documentation of my life, of my art, and of my plans. Do you want to see something funny? I'm going to show you who I am.
During the early 1990s, a young Uruguayan-American recluse named Ricardo Lopez became obsessed with the Icelandic singer Bjork. After immigrating to the US with his family as a child, he had failed to establish the type of normalcy that he may have wanted for his life. Lopez was socially inept and had never had a girlfriend, and while he made a decent living as an exterminator, he was deeply unsatisfied with his circumstances. His attraction to Bjork began in 1993 at the age of 18 and quickly spiraled into a deluded mission to marry the singer. He devoted copious amounts of time and energy to learning everything he could about the singer, writing love letters to her and keeping a diary about her, which eventually grew to be more than 800 pages long. In his letters, Lopez called Bjork his muse and wrote that she made him feel euphoric. He became increasingly fixated with the musician over time, eventually to the point where he began to lose touch with reality. At the same time, he remained painfully aware of his perceived failures, often complaining in his diary about not having a driver's license and feeling unattractive due to his weight. Lopez reached his tipping point while living in Hollywood, Florida in 1996, when he learned about Bjork's brief relationship with the singer Goldie. Overwhelmed with feelings of betrayal, he became intent on punishing Bjork. In a self-recorded video diary, he admitted to his obsession with Bjork and announced his plan to kill her. Lopez initially planned to send the singer a bomb filled with HIV-contaminated needles, but when it proved to be unfeasible, he decided to build and send her a package bomb. While the device was en route to Bjork's London London home, he filmed a bizarre final video, which showed Lopez shaving his head and painting his face red and green. 4 days later, he was found dead from a gunshot wound inside his apartment. While investigating the scene, police discovered the video diary. They notified Scotland Yard about Lopez's plan to kill Bjork, and the package was intercepted before it could reach her residence. The device was safely detonated, and Bjork extended her condolences to Lopez's family while politely cautioning her fans not to get too invested in her personal life.
Comfort is what I seek in speaking to you. Something that makes me feel better. For a long time, I've been speaking into the mirror and being my own psychologist, sort of. It's a release, as many times as my art is.
Number 9. Tamara Ecclestone. Tara Ecclestone, daughter of Formula One racing mogul Bernie Ecclestone, was left shaken and devastated in 2019 after thieves invaded her London home and stole tens of millions of dollars worth of gems and jewelry. The 35-year-old had just left her mansion for a holiday vacation when the nearly hour-long heist was carried out. Many were left baffled that the intruders had managed to gain access to the property, which is situated along a prestigious street with 24/7 security nicknamed Billionaires Row. The residence was believed to be under constant watch, but surveillance footage revealed that the thieves had entered the home while the guard on duty was at a nearby supermarket buying dinner. Unfortunately for investigators, the video was too grainy for the suspects to be identifiable. Determined to solve the case and acting on a hunch based on the information available, Detective Thomas Grimshaw visited a budget hotel in southeast London in search of clues. While there, he spoke with an employee who said she had received an unwanted explicit photo from a stranger on the hotel's nighttime emergency line during the time the burglars were thought to be in the area. She had blocked the number and saved it under the name Weirdo, and was therefore able to provide it to the police. Investigators traced the number to a suspect named Yugoslav Jovanovic, who had rented a room at the hotel under his real name during the time period when the burglary occurred. Based on the evidence, detectives were able to prove that Jovanovic and his co-conspirators had hid out at the hotel after committing the home invasion, and they also connected him to additional unsolved burglaries throughout Europe. Jovanovic and his co-conspirators, Alessandro Maltese and Alessandro Donati, were extradited to the UK from Italy to face charges. They pleaded guilty to conspiracy to burgle, and Jovanovic also admitted to conspiracy to commit money laundering and attempting to convert criminal property. The judge sentenced Jovanovic to 11 years in prison, while his fellow burglars were each sentenced to 8 years and 9 months behind bars. A fourth suspect remains at large, and much of the stolen jewelry was never recovered, despite a $7.7 million reward being offered by Ecclestone herself. Number 8. Gnewzy. During the early morning hours of April 29th, 2024, a group of armed men disguised as police officers kidnapped Nigerian musician Good News Imuimu, or Gnewzy, who was on his way back from a show in Delta State. The abductors snatched the singer out of the vehicle he was riding in, then sent an email to Gnewzy's record label demanding a $200,000 ransom within 7 days. In the message, the kidnappers threatened to send out Gnewzy's head if the ransom went unpaid. 6 days after the kidnapping, Gnewzy was released by his captors. His boss at the record label, Dili Umenyaora, confirmed that a ransom had been paid but did not reveal the amount. During an interview later that year, Gnewzy revealed that Umenyaora had paid around $200,000 to secure the singer's freedom. He said he was not mistreated during his time in captivity, and that his abductors fed him and refrained from beating him, but he was undoubtedly happy that the ordeal was over with, and immediately jumped back into making music after being released. Number 7. Duffy. Welsh pop singer Amy Ann Duffy, or Duffy for short, rose to stardom in 2009 but fell out of the mainstream seemingly just as fast. But her popularity didn't just fade, which is known to happen among musicians who sometimes fail to maintain their momentum. After becoming a breakout success, Duffy was still on many people's minds, and they wondered what had happened to her. Answers finally came in February of 2020 when the singer revealed in a since-deleted Instagram post that she had suffered mental trauma after being abducted and assaulted over a several-week period. The emotional impact of the ordeal caused her to step away from her music career in order to focus on healing. Her recovery took years, and she said she spent the vast majority of her time alone during her decade-long absence from the spotlight. In an essay posted to her website, Duffy explained that she was drugged at a restaurant while celebrating her birthday and then taken to a foreign country where her kidnapper put her in a hotel room and repeatedly assaulted her. They eventually returned to Duffy's home, where the perpetrator continued to drug and assault her for 4 more weeks. During that time, Duffy feared for her life, but she was afraid to seek help because she thought the police would track her down as a missing person and land her right back in the path of her captor. She eventually escaped the situation, but was hesitant to go to the police because she feared that even the slightest investigative misstep could cost her her life. Duffy finally went to law enforcement after the perpetrator threatened to out her story, but she has not revealed her abductor's name or how the case was handled legally. After going public about her experience, she retreated back into obscurity for a handful of years. She made an Instagram post in 2024, but has since deleted it and has remained under the radar ever since. Number 6. Tania Mendoza. 42-year-old Mexican actress Tania Mendoza was waiting to pick up her son from football practice in the city of Cuernavaca in December 2021 when 2 men pulled up on a motorcycle. One of them stepped off the bike and shot Mendoza dead in cold blood before fleeing the scene with his accomplice. Police reassured the public that they were investigating the case, but they were unable to specify a motive, and it appears as though the suspects remain at large. 11 years earlier, in 2010, Mendoza had been kidnapped along with her husband and young son. She survived the ordeal but had received death threats on numerous occasions since being released by her captors. It's unclear whether Mendoza's murder is connected to the previous kidnapping or the death threats. With no leads to go on, police classified her death as a femicide, making her an unfortunate statistic in a country where gender-based violence reportedly occurs on an epidemic scale. Number 5. Carson, Beck, and Hannah Cavinder. In February 2025, a group of thieves stole 3 luxury cars from University of Miami athletes Carson Beck and Hannah Cavinder. According to reports, 20-year-old Taekwon DeAndre Anderson and 3 other masked intruders gained entry into the couple's home shortly before 3 o'clock in the morning, using a garage door opener that had been found in Cavinder's unlocked Range Rover. They stole the key fobs to the Range Rover as well as Beck's Mercedes-Benz E645 and Lamborghini Urus, and drove off in the vehicles. Beck, who established a name for himself as the university's quarterback, and Cavinder, who plays on the women's basketball team, were asleep when the burglary occurred. The Range Rover and Mercedes-Benz were found abandoned within a day of the theft, while the Lamborghini remains missing. That same day, police spotted Anderson driving around in a rented Mercedes-Benz that had been used to drive the thieves to the crime scene. He was arrested and confessed to the burglary in detail while in custody. Anderson was charged with multiple felonies, including burglary, grand theft, and vehicle grand theft. He has since been released on house arrest, and no other arrests have been announced in connection with the case. Number 4. Darci Lynne Farmer. During the spring of 2024, a 60-year-old Frenchman named José Thierry Maurice Riba was arrested in Oklahoma for stalking 19-year-old singer and ventriloquist Darci Lynne Farmer, who landed in the spotlight during her appearances on America's Got Talent. He was taken into custody in early May after showing up at several places in an attempt to meet Farmer. The first call for assistance came from Farmer's father, who told a 911 dispatcher that a suspicious male stalker from France was trying to get into their gated community. Riba had pulled up to the neighborhood's entrance in a Jeep and asked to see the Farmer family, but a security guard noticed that he wasn't on the visitation list and called Farmer's father, who instructed the guard to send Riba away immediately. According to an arrest affidavit, Riba pleaded with security to give him 10 minutes of time and tried to negotiate his way into the community before finally leaving. 2 days earlier, he had approached Farmer after a performance and given her a gift bag containing a love note. The day after showing up outside the Farmer family's neighborhood, he showed up at their church and approached Darci's parents. Police were called to the scene and Riba was arrested on suspicion of stalking. Records show that he pleaded guilty as charged in September 2024 and was sentenced to time served. Number 3. Leonard B. Flo Lopez. In March of 2017, 36-year-old celebrity barber Leonard B. Flo Lopez was robbed at gunpoint by 2 men in Miami Beach. The thieves made off with $160,000 worth of jewelry, and Lopez was able to identify one of the suspects as 27-year-old Rafael Marocci de Jesus, whom he had met recently regarding a rental contract. A short while later, Lopez spotted the suspect's car. DeJesus's girlfriend, 24-year-old Michelle Weber, exited the vehicle and handed Lopez a bag containing the jewelry. She and DeJesus were arrested but contested Lopez's claims about what had happened. Weber told police that Lopez had set her and her boyfriend up, but a search of her phone turned up photos of Marochi DeJesus wearing the stolen jewelry. DeJesus was charged with armed robbery, while Weber faced the charge of accessory after the fact. While the outcome of DeJesus's case is unclear, records show that Weber successfully completed a pre-trial diversion program, sparing her from any criminal convictions. Number 2. Tyra Banks. In March of 2008, a 39-year-old Georgia man named Brady Green showed up at the set of former model Tyra Banks' talk show in Manhattan. By then, he had already been dating Banks with unwanted phone calls, letters, and flowers for months. In February 2009, nearly a year after going to the New York City talk show set, he showed up at her studio in Los Angeles. In addition to having a romantic obsession with Banks, Green had threatened her with violence on at least one occasion. It would later be speculated in court that he suffered from delusions which made him genuinely believe that he was in a relationship with the victim. Green was arrested for his alleged crimes, and in April 2009 he was found guilty of stalking, attempted aggravated harassment, and criminal trespassing. He was sentenced to a year of probation in order to undergo a rehabilitative program for stalkers. During Green's court hearings, Banks testified about the effects the stalking had had on her life. She worried about the safety of both herself and her employees, and had dramatically increased the security at her studio due to Green's alarmingly persistent behavior. She also said that she was surrounded by security guards wherever she went, even during her daily jog. It stood in stark contrast to the freedom she had previously enjoyed and had grown to miss after no longer feeling like she could safely walk around in public on her own. Stick around after number 1 to watch our episode from a while back about when celebrity lookalikes go wrong. Number 1. 23 Rackz. Teenage drill rapper Justin Johnson, also known as 23 Rackz, was shot dead in broad daylight in Washington, D.C. while filming a music video in May of 2022. Shortly before the killing, he had made an Instagram post sharing his location, leading to the speculation that his murderer had been tracking him on social media. Authorities offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to the killer's arrest, but the case remains unsolved to this day. It's unclear whether any promising developments have been made or if the investigation is still active. Number 8. Jason Sanderling. In September of 2022, a young man bearing a striking resemblance to pop icon Harry Styles was arrested for robbery and assault in New York. On January the 21st, Jason Sanderling broke down the door of an apartment in Tyrone and ordered 3 people to get on the floor while holding them at gunpoint with an assault rifle. The 21-year-old struck a woman in the head with the firearm and groped her breasts after she tried to resist being zip-tied. He made off from the apartment with a stash of marijuana and a few $100s in cash. Sanderling subsequently posted a Snapchat video of the stolen drugs, which he subsequently also tried to sell. The man was identified by his longtime girlfriend, with whom he'd allegedly carried out an earlier robbery in Altoona. Law enforcement took him into custody on multiple charges that included robbery, criminal trespass, indecent assault, and aggravated assault. His mugshot attracted attention online due to his resemblance to Styles, with the most noticeable difference being that Sanderling had the number 33 tattooed on the side of his forehead. Another distinction was that in person, the robber was roughly 6 inches shorter than the former One Direction singer. Number 7. Todd Barrick. The photo of a man wanted for violating his parole went viral in the fall of 2019 due to his likeness to a character from a hit TV series. The Galesburg Police Department in Illinois shared the mugshot of 50-year-old Todd Barrick, and online users immediately noticed the resemblance to Walter White, the protagonist, played by Bryan Cranston, of the critically acclaimed and massively popular series Breaking Bad. Their likeness extended beyond the bald head and goatee, as Barrick was wanted for methamphetamine possession while the character on the show, a chemistry teacher, began producing methamphetamine after being diagnosed with cancer. One commenter jokingly suggested that the police looked for Barrick in Albuquerque, where the action in this series unfolded. The mugshot attracted the attention of international press and was even featured on late-night comedy shows. Barrick remained at large for several months, following the photo circulation, before he was eventually arrested in Des Moines, Iowa, in early December. Number 6. Abdullah Husseini. In October of 2018, law enforcement in Blackpool, England, posted a photo to its Facebook of a suspected thief, captured by CCTV in a local supermarket. Before long, the photo of the man holding a beer carton while looking into the camera was shared millions of times and had amassed tens of thousands of comments due to the suspect's resemblance to Ross Geller, David Schwimmer's character on the sitcom Friends. Schwimmer himself brought further attention to the original post by uploading a spoof video to his Twitter, reenacting the photo. He scurried through a convenience store while holding a beer carton. Before looking straight into the camera, the actor explained that he couldn't have been responsible for theft, since he was in New York, and then wished the police good luck in their investigation. In November, the lookalike was arrested and later named as 36-year-old Abdullah Husseini. Burnley Crown Court was told that he'd swiped a wallet from a customer's jacket at a restaurant and then used the card found inside to make several fraudulent purchases before he was caught in the act of buying beer by CCTV at an Iceland store. Husseini, originally from Slough, was described as nomadic and a habitual thief with a predisposition towards stealing alcohol. He had 32 previous convictions for 60 offenses since 2008, 27 of which were for theft and dishonesty. It took a jury less than 3 hours to convict him for the viral incident, and he was consequently jailed for 9 months. Number 5. Corey Webb. While walking to a local Goodwill to buy comics, on New Year's Eve 2016, a high-functioning autistic man from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, was ambushed by a robber. As reported by the unnamed victim, the suspect jumped out of a doorway, held a pistol to his head, and demanded he hand over a pair of headphones. The robber also took $20 from the victim, threatening to kill him for it. When asked to describe his attacker, the man claimed he looked like Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo cartoon series. The police knew exactly to whom he was referring and identified the robber as Corey Webb. Local law enforcement had been called several times in the past by concerned residents and store owners who'd found Webb passed out due to his addiction to K2, a form of synthetic cannabis. He was subsequently arrested and charged with felony armed robbery. The Shaggy lookalike was booked into Milwaukee County Jail on a $1,000 cash bond and faced up to 25 years behind bars. Number 4. Lawrence Sullivan. A Florida man emulating the Joker through his green hair and face tattoos was arrested in May of 2017 by law enforcement in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Police in Miami responded to reports of a man pointing a handgun at traffic in the 15200 block of Southwest 104th Street on May the 23rd. The Batman villain-inspired suspect, later identified as 29-year-old Lawrence Sullivan, had fled by the time that officers arrived at the scene. His facial artwork included the word Joker tattooed on his forehead, next to a Batman symbol with a knife through it, as well as permanent clown makeup and the signature scarred smile. Officers subsequently located him walking out the front gate of the Hammocks Place apartment complex. Upon being approached by them, Sullivan revealed that he had a firearm in his pocket. An officer reached inside and found a Smith & Wesson handgun loaded with 6 rounds. When asked why he didn't get a concealed carry permit, Sullivan, who described his occupation as being a tattoo model, claimed it was too expensive. He denied having waved the pistol at passing cars and claimed that he only had it for protection. Sullivan was charged with carrying a concealed firearm and booked at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center on a $5,000 bond. He had a number of past arrests, including one for marijuana possession in 2013. Sullivan's mugshot at the time was dramatically different from his most recent one, as it showed his face free of any tattoos. He was eventually bonded out of jail, where he claimed to have been treated like a celebrity due to his unusual appearance. Less than 18 months later, Sullivan was arrested once more in Pinellas County after a warrant had been put out for yet another concealed carry firearm offense. Number 3. Tara Hanlon. A British woman was arrested at Heathrow Airport on October the 2nd of 2020 as she was trying to smuggle a large amount of cash out of England. Once news of Tara Hanlon's arrest began to spread, British media labeled her a Kim Kardashian lookalike. It was reported that the 30-year-old had gotten plastic surgery and other cosmetic procedures in order to bring her physical appearance closer to that of her idol. While the end result of her efforts to emulate the socialite was disputable, Hanlon's criminal activity was beyond a shadow of a doubt, as she was caught trying to smuggle over $2.7 million from London to Dubai. The cash had been vacuum-packed in 5 suitcases and covered in ground coffee to hide the smell from sniffer dogs. When initially asked about her extensive luggage by a customs official, Hanlon claimed she wasn't sure what to wear upon reaching her destination. The ensuing find was the largest individual cash seizure at the UK border that year, and the police determined that the money came from organized crime. During her initial interview, the media-dubbed lookalike claimed that it was her first trip, denied having been paid to smuggle the cash, and expressed the belief that her actions were legal, since the money would be declared in Dubai. However, subsequent analysis of her phone indicated that she'd made 3 previous visits in July and August as a courier and was paid over $3,000 for each of them. In a message to an unidentified source, she'd boasted 3 big ones. With this wage and the next, my debts go by. And in another, claimed that the criminal activity afforded her the perfect life. The total amount she'd smuggled, excluding the final failed effort, totaled close to $4 million. Several other people were arrested and charged as part of the same money laundering operation. Hanlon eventually pleaded guilty to multiple counts of removing criminal property, for which she was sentenced to 34 months in prison. Number 2. Luminița Perijok. In 2012, Luminița Perijok, from the city of Tulcea, Romania, hired taxi driver Nicolae Stan to deliver some shopping bags to her apartment. Once the delivery was completed, 30-year-old Perijok asked for the man's number so that she could elicit his services again. A few hours later, she asked him to bring several bottles of wine to her apartment. The woman, whom local and foreign media later dubbed an Angelina Jolie lookalike, grabbed Stan upon his arrival and dragged him into the apartment. She demanded that the married father of 3 have intercourse with her and pulled out a 4-inch knife when he refused. Stan twice performed as commanded, but Perijok reportedly wanted more and stabbed the man repeatedly when he couldn't go through with it. He eventually managed to barricade himself in the bedroom and called the emergency services, who rescued him from the apartment. Perijok was arrested and during the ensuing trial maintained that she'd actually been the victim, a claim which was rejected by the court. She was jailed for 5 years, but the sentence was ultimately suspended for 4 years on appeal, after it was determined that her behavior had been influenced by medication she'd been taking at the time. Stan, however, argued that he'd been given a life sentence of being teased by his friends, whom he claimed didn't understand why he'd refused someone they deemed a very attractive woman. On that topic, the 35-year-old told a media outlet, "I think anyone would find it impossible to perform with a knife at their throat, even if they were with Miss Romania." Number 1. Fidel González Gutiérrez. In late March of 2017, an arrest in Florida drew attention on the internet due to the suspect's strong resemblance to Santa Claus. 58-year-old Fidel González Gutiérrez from Marathon had been wanted on 6 outstanding warrants related to the trafficking of cocaine. As reported by a spokesperson for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, the Santa Claus lookalike had sold the illegal substance to an undercover officer multiple times between late February and early March. González Gutiérrez, whose occupation was listed as fisherman by local law enforcement, had carried out his dealings near a church, which resulted in further charges. He faced 6 counts of selling cocaine within 1,000 feet of a place of worship, in addition to 4 counts of using a 2-way communication device to facilitate a felony. Once his mugshot began circulating online, a number of users quipped about the Florida man, suggesting he should put himself on the naughty list or that he'd been dreaming of a different kind of white Christmas.
Thanks for watching. If you could swap lives with any celebrity for a month, whether a sports star, movie star, singer, politician, or someone else, who would you choose and why? Let us know in the comments below.